Our grocery stores and restaurants are filled with all kinds of food choices.
Have you ever thought about how they got there?
Welcome to the world of food science. We got an up-close look at some of this work at the Food and Agricultural Products Center at Oklahoma State University. Chuck Willoughby showed Alex and his gran and me around and taught us about the work they do.
To better understand some of what you'll see, it helps to think about these scenarios.
Suppose you had a really great family recipe and you wanted to turn it into a retail product. Or maybe you're NASA and you need to develop muffins for your astronauts, but they can't be crumbly because in zero gravity, the crumbs would go everywhere.
Or suppose you already had a food company and you wanted to test a new product to see if consumers like it.
What if you were a farmer and instead of selling your wheat to market, you wanted to make it into artisanal flour to sell? What if you had an idea for a brand new food product, but you had to find a way to produce it on a commercial scale? Maybe you've uncovered consumer demand for certain nutritional needs, and you have to adapt your existing recipes to meet that market.
Or maybe you need to establish food safety and quality control protocols for your process.
These are just a few of the examples out of countless problems that food scientists work to solve.
Our tour started in this room, called the sensory room.
Here, companies can pay to have taste tests performed on their products.
And then we'll have another panel come in, and another panel, and another panel. So by the time we've had 4 different panels in here, try things 3 different times, we have 132 points of data. Yes?
So here there are these metal things.
Yep. Sheet. We can either use the computer or we use paper, and we'll write down which one we thought was different, and we might even say which one we prefer. Then we'll spin it back just like you just did. Maybe give it a knock so the researcher knows to come down and load the second sample. And then at the very end, the panelists who usually get like a candy bar or maybe even a gift card.
Many times, they don't want the tasting panel to be influenced by color, so they do a neat trick with a red light.
Look at these gumballs under the red light. What color do you think they are? Now, under normal light. Pretty cool, right?
This is what the room next door looks like. It's where the lab technician loads the samples. The information collected by the test is used by the company to make decisions about their products. The next step was the food kitchen. This kitchen can be used to make the food samples for the taste testing experiments, and it can also be used to perfect recipes. Smaller batch recipes also have to be scaled up for commercial production, and the kitchen is equipped with resources and people to help food entrepreneurs with both recipe refining and scaling.
The other thing this room is used for is for scale up. It's the first step in trying to take a household recipe, a stovetop recipe, into something that would go into a 100-gallon kettle. Because the last thing I want to do, so when we go to that point, we got us a 9-gram scale. And so we want to know, let's just say this is about 1.5 cups of stuff. And what does that 1.5 cups of garlic powder weigh? Well, looks to me like it weighs 285 grams. Well, then if 1.5 cups is going to treat a 5-quart pot, I wonder how much I'm going to need for 100 gallons. Well, I'm not going to go and do 1.5 cups or start doing this 1,200 times upstairs. Instead, I'm going to take this and multiply by the ratio I need to scale it up. Now, I also have to understand there's certain things I can't scale up at the same rate as everything else, like black pepper. Black pepper will really discolor my barbecue sauce. And my garlic will start to take over if I get too much in there. So I have to be careful about not making everything exactly the same ratio that it was in 5 quarts as it will be in 100 gallons.
From the test kitchen, we went upstairs to the Kerr Auditorium.
This room is home to training sessions, symposiums, and even some OSU classes. It's a fantastic space, and it's also equipped with some very special features. This is called a rail, and meat carcasses can be hung and moved on it. Behind the wall is a giant cooler, and if needed, a carcass can be moved into the auditorium. The cooler was our next stop, but before we could go back, we had to get sanitized and put on hairnets. Not only does this facility have to adhere to USDA standards because it produces food for human consumption, it is also a teaching institution and sets health and safety standards high to be a good model to the companies it serves. The carcasses you see here were harvested on site. They hang here awaiting further processing. In the meantime, they are used by OSU's meat judging team for practice. In this room, the carcass is broken down into finished retail cuts, like steaks and roast. You might think that meat cutting is meat cutting, but butchering the meat to extract maximum value from the carcass is important. A great example of that is the Vegas strip steak, which was developed here at OSU. There was a portion of the meat that was previously used for ground beef, but OSU devised a way to quickly cut it into steaks called Vegas strips that are not only tender, but flavorful. And they also sell at a higher price point than the ground beef.
This is the packaging room.
Just about everything we do is vacuum packed. We can do film wrap trays, even gas flush trays. Do you ever see product in grocery stores that's in a deep tray? It's usually modified atmospherically. What they're going to do is take out the natural atmosphere that will oxidize the meat.
Dad cut filming at a bad spot.
I sure did. The rest of what he was going to say is that the tray is sealed with oxygen-free gases to keep the meat from oxidizing. From this point, there are several pilot plant scaled size rooms that can perform a variety of food production functions. There is a sausage room where things like hot dogs are made. They can produce meat or plant-based hot dogs. There is a meat curing room, which we didn't go in, but is used for things like bacon. There is a thermal processing room, which includes smokers that can use real wood chips or liquid smoke.
And it just cooks it with steam and
So steam mainly, and then so steam is the heat, and this is the flavor.
oh, okay, so it's like
Natural
smoke.
And so now we can put a concentrated liquid smoke in here, hook up these lines, and atomize it. You'll see a little nozzle down here. This is an atomizer. See this little pouch? You see this nozzle right here? Oh, I can put it much like that. Yeah, that right there. You see the fine little point on the end?
Yeah.
That is going to cause a cloud. It's going to be like a gas. So that liquid all of a sudden is just a mist in there.
There is a spice room.
There is a wet processing room for things like salsas, jams, and soups. There is a room that can be configured for different pilot plant setups. For instance, they use some of these machines to test production of a taco shell made from potatoes.
So the spiral oven, the advantage of something like that is it takes up less footprint than a tunnel oven. It's very efficient. And they'd ride that belt and come out the top, and we'd tray them off and take them to the blast freezer to chill. They were pitching this product to a quick service restaurant as a product that after you temper it, it's more pliable. It's partially done, so it doesn't need very much time in the deep fryer, but it's still pliable because it's not overdone. And so you put it in your taco shell mold, drop it into the fryer, and all of a sudden you've got a potato-based hash brown shell.
There is a bakery room for testing things like breads, pasta, cookies, and flours. Companies pay to use these facilities to try out new products, new recipes, and new techniques. Then we stop by the Cowboy Meats retail store. This store is open to the public 1 day a week. You can buy all the familiar cuts of meat and a few you might not have heard of before, like beef bacon.
Have a similar structure. And so they'll take that short plate and soak it, brine it in the big stainless steel gondolas, just like they would a pork belly. And then they'll smoke it in the out car, same cycle that you would the bacon, and then slice it and package it. And when you're cooking it on the skillet or even oven cooking, you're like, I smell bacon, because it's the same cure. And then when you bite into it, it's like, yeah, it tastes like bacon. And then after just a couple of seconds, you're like, oh, now I taste the beef. And it's really good. So the beef marrow bones, these are cut long ways. Because some of your grill masters, when they're grilling steaks, some people like to put butter on their steaks. Well, some of the grill masters, I don't know when this was discovered, but what they like to do is, as soon as this marrow starts getting soft, they'll scrape that out and put it on the steak to give that richer flavor. And so, and of course, marrow has some nutrients to it. It's good for you. And so that's a pretty popular product too.
We even got a look at the harvest floor where the animals are turned from muscle to meat. The meat plant manager, Joel Jackson, showed us around, but we won't go into those details here.
If this seems like a huge facility, you are correct.
It's 96,000 square feet, and we didn't even take you to the special laboratories on the 3rd floor. And now that you've seen some of what they do, you may be wondering why they do it. The FAPC started in 1997 with the mission of adding value to Oklahoma agriculture and food industry by developing food processing and technology. They've been very successful at it, impacting the state economy, increased value for producers, and creating jobs. To find out more about their work and the training opportunities that they offer to both companies and individuals, visit their website or give them a follow on their social media pages.
You'll find links in the video description. Thanks, Mr. Chuck and Mr. Joel.
We appreciate the opportunity to learn more about food science and how your work benefits us as consumers and citizens of Oklahoma.
See you on our next adventure!